Well, since you last looked at what we were working on, one more table has joined the database. So we're up to 5 separate tables. When you first open the database that's in the classroom, you'll have table cell phones, table cell assign, which were explored in our very first video, and table system assign, which we didn't explore, but which is going to be necessary for you to complete your project. Then you will create and complete the table about employees from design view and populate the table with that data, and you will import the table computers from the Excel spreadsheet, which is posted also in the classroom. So we're up to 5 separate tables, and then so far 1 query, 1 form, and 1 report. And the next step in our Access project is to create a very simple query so that we can see how queries are designed. So my goal is to look at the table about computers. Now I'm just going to show it to you and then we'll get back into queries. I want to look at this table about computers and I want to answer some basic questions like which systems are less than $1,000, or which systems have at least 8 gigabytes of random access memory, or which systems have at least a terabyte hard drive. So those are the types of questions I might want to design. You can see the data in here and that how much we would have to pull out. So let's start, close the table about computers. Let's start by going to Create, and we'll click on Query Design. There it is. All right. So the data that I want to work with is in the table about computers. So I'm going to choose the table of computers and hit Add. And then I can close this Show Table box. I'm going to stretch out the design at the top here, the little table at the top here, so that I can see all of the data that's down below. And I might want to move this up a little bit to have a little more room down here. Not necessary, but you can adjust the view so that you're comfortable. So my first query that I want to design, I'm looking for a lot of storage. So I would like to know what systems we have, and let's go ahead and get the processor, including the speed, how much RAM, how much storage. I'm not interested in graphics cards right now, but let's go ahead and throw the operating system in there as well. All right. So by double clicking each of these field names, they've joined the grid down below. If you've changed your mind, you could grab one of these and drag it down to an earlier place and it would throw it in there. I don't need to do that, so I'm going to highlight it and delete that column. All right. System unit, processor name, processor speed, how much RAM, how much storage, and which operating system it is. When I switch to the Surface, it shows me all of the different, there are 20 different records. It shows me every single record. Now there's a little hard to read, so I'm going to make it a little bit wider here. So I've widened each column to make it a little easier to read. And I'm going to go back to Design View. So my goal for this particular query is to find machines which have at least a terabyte of storage. So each one of these rows of the design grid down below, the top row gives you what the field name is, the next row tells you what table it comes from. In this case, they all come from the same table. It tells me whether or not it's being sorted, and it's all going to show right now, they're all checked under criteria. So I'm going to go to the row about criteria, and specifically I'm looking for the criteria for the storage. And I'm looking for machines that have at least, so greater than or equal to, a terabyte is 1,000 gigabytes. Remember, kangaroos make great tacos, kilobyte, megabyte, gigabyte, terabyte. A terabyte is 1,000 gigabytes. So that's my criteria right there. Let's look at that in the datasheet view. We've got 7 different machines that meet that criteria. Now, right now, it's not sorted in any order. I'd actually like to sort these things so that the smallest drive is at the bottom, and then so on and so forth. So I'm going to go back to Design View. And in that same column about storage, in the row about sorting, I'm going to sort it in ascending level. And now let's look at the surface again. There we go. So these are the machines that I have with at least a terabyte of storage I'm going to go ahead and save this query, and I'm going to call it QRY terabyte so that we can see which machines have a terabyte worth of storage. Now that was just an example of the type of query that you can build. What I'd actually like you to build as part of your project, I'm going to close this one, I would like to build a query, always in Design View, that shows me all of the machines which cost less than $1,000. So we're going to once again base that on the table about computers. We need to add the fields to the design grid down below that are relevant. So let's go ahead and get the system unit. And we should go ahead and put in the processor information, the random access memory, the storage, the operating system, and let's throw the price in there as well. Now, look at the surface to make sure the data you want is there. Make it a little wider so that you can actually see what's going on. Make this one maybe a little narrower. All right, so I'm interested in machines that cost less than $1,000 in Design View, and I'd like them sorted as well. In Design View, enter the criteria and make certain that things are sorted. Check the results. All right. And we'll save this query, bargain system, and tell it OK. So that's the query that the very simple query that I'd like you to design. Now this shows all of the systems that we have access to that belong to the company inventory. What if I wanted to see which systems belong to which employees? Now, I'm going to go ahead and create a query, not one that you're going to create because it's going to turn out that this doesn't do exactly what you want. And I know that the tables are in the table computers has the information about which systems it is. And the table employees has information about the employees. Now right now, if I put down the company's serial number and, for instance, which machine it is, and I put the employee's identification number, last name and first name, if you look at this in the surface, it looks like we have, oh, for heaven's sakes, 100 different records. Now what it's done is it's simply because it doesn't see, let me go back to Design View for a second, because it doesn't see any relationship between the table about computers and the table about employees. It's guessing on the surface that each machine belongs to each employee. So Lisa has machine 123, the dog has 123, the cat has 123. Each machine, it's a cross join. It's showing you every possible Cartesian product, every possible result combination. So this isn't going to work the way we want it to. In Design View, I happen to know that, let me show another table, I happen to know that the table System Assign tells me which employee has which piece of equipment. But still, Access isn't recognizing the relationship. Now the reason that Access isn't recognizing the relationship is that, for example, the company serial number in table computers and the system serial number in table System Assign, they're really the same thing. If you opened up both tables and you looked at them side by side, D123, which is a desktop, was assigned to a particular employee. But Access doesn't recognize it because the names aren't the same. Even when the names are the same, it's guessing that that's true. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to close this query, which wasn't very useful anyway. And under Database Tools, Relationships, right now it sees that certain cell phones are assigned. Now it doesn't know who's got the cell phones. Let's go ahead and show a table and add in the table employees. Now I know that in table cell assign, this field called staff refers to employee 1, 2, and 3. In order to explain what relationship exists to Access, you're going to grab the employee ID from table employees and drag it over and drop it off on top of the field called staff in table cell assign. So what pops up is a box that says, are you sure that the employee ID in table employees is the same thing as the field called staff in the table cell assign? Well, yes, I'm sure. And I'm going to check this top 2 boxes because these will enforce referential integrity. In other words, it will not allow me to assign a cell phone to an employee ID number unless that employee is already listed in table employees. So the relationship type 1 to many, top 2 boxes are going to enforce referential integrity and cascade the update of related fields. I'm going to create that, and I get a nice strong join. If you get an error here, it is likely that you have typed in an employee ID, that you don't have all of the employee IDs, EMP01, EMP02, that are in the table cell assign. So go back to your table about employees and check that you've got EMP01, EMP02 with no spaces. Right? Now, in fact, when I give this database to you, this should already exist. What you'll have to do is add in the table about computers. And I would like you to create the appropriate relationships. I know that the employee ID in table employees is the same as the employee ID in table system assign. And I know that the system serial number is the same as the company serial number. So this is what your relationship should look like by the time you finish. Let me move things over so that you can see nice steady relationships here. To read all of this out from top to bottom, it says the company serial number that is on a particular cell phone is related to the property number in the table which assigns cell phones. One phone can be assigned more than one time because it might be returned and then reissued. And one employee might have more than one cell phone over the course of their service because they might return one cell phone and be given a different one. Ditto over here. One employee might have more than one system. They might have a laptop and a desktop, or they might have a laptop and then return it and get a different laptop. And one computer can be assigned more than one time, multiple times, and in fact that little infinity sign stands for many, but it can be assigned an infinite number of times. So these are the relationships. When you close, it'll ask you to save. It's remembered the relationships already. When you close, it will ask you to save the layout, the fact that we've dragged all of these around and resized them so that they're easier to read. I'm going to go ahead and close it, and yes, I'll save the design so it makes it easier for me to read. And then we can come back and look at creating more queries, a form, and a report.